existence of aliens is being kept hidden from the public. One man makes it his mission to discover the truth. Bonker.
Mr.
Bonker.
Last October, in the quiet Mississippi town of Pascagoula, two local men confronted authorities with a rather bizarre story. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker told of a strange craft landing near their fishing site and of being taken aboard by three unearthly creatures. The two men were questioned under hypnosis and lie detectors, but their story remained intact. One of the men suffered a nervous breakdown and is still under treatment. Among the skeptics were Ralph and Judy Blum, already at work on a UFO book. With W5 last week, Ralph and Judy returned to Pascagoula.
Judy and I stumbled into this book. It came to us to be written. Suddenly we were in a wave of waves. UFOs were being seen across the country again. We were in what they call a flap. And people began experiencing things that they couldn't explain. Something was happening in our skies in the midst of Watergate, Agnew, the energy crisis, the Middle East. Something was happening and people couldn't understand what it was. We spoke about UFOs, but nobody really knew. And then it hit right here where we are. It hit Pascagoula. Charlie Hickson entered the news and we had a book to write.
Something happened October of '73 that would go down in history. The spaceship came with many blue lights set down near them in the night. Three little men came out and took them inside. They looked him over with one big eye. They say what they saw was the real thing, though. They were the ones that saw the Pascagoula UFO.
We were sitting on the other side of the pier with our feet, over toward the river, fishing in the river. And the fish still wasn't biting, so I told Calvin, I said, well, we might as well go home. But I guess that was when I heard it. It was some kind of zipping sound. And when I turned around, in this area out here, about 40 or 50 feet out there, it was some kind of craft, it looked like it's going to come right onto the ground. But it came on down and hovered about a foot and a half or 2 feet off of the ground. We didn't know what to do, the river behind us and that out there not knowing what it was. So, and then before we had time to really do anything, it seemed like an opening appeared. And toward the end, it was, toward us. And the blue light, it had blue flashing lights as it was, approaching the ground, but then they went out. And when the opening appeared, some source of light came from the inside. It was just almost blinding.
Sheriff Diamond, can you tell me just what happened that night?
No, sir, I can't. All I can tell you is there was two men came into the sheriff's department approximately 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They were all excited and upset, wanting to climb the walls, hysterical, crying. That's actually all I know is what happened. I mean, as far as me seeing what happened, I don't know.
Of course, we could see them in the opening coming from, when it started out to craft. But
Did you think it was people coming out at first?
Well, they had. I kind of thought it was people at first, off like that. But of course, when they appeared there in front of me, it was the most shock I've ever had in my life.
What did you see?
Well, they were shorter than me. I'd say about 5'2" or 3", and they didn't have a neck. The head, it seemed to come directly to their shoulders, and they had something that came out to a point about where a nose would be, and on each side the ears. And I believe that they looked like they were a little longer on the ears than the nose.
But still pointed the ears.
They were still pointing, yes.
But since I was down there, and since I was a physician, and several other scientists and investigators were asked to consult and look into the situation, I was asked would I mind if I would be present, and I said I wouldn't mind at all. And while it is still very difficult for us to believe that a spaceship landed and that robot-type creatures came out and actually took these two people into the spaceship. These men, in my opinion, believed that they saw this, and that they were being honest in reporting what they have reported.
But it seemed to me when they came out that doorway, or that opening, or whatever it was, then just almost instantly they were right there on us. And their arms, they had arms, and I saw the arms moving here and in the shoulders, but they had weld. I mean, their fingers were webbed, and then they had something like a thumb, and they were like this.
We questioned them at length. And then we left the room and recorded all the conversation they had. Recorded between the two of them. And one of them kept wanting to pray. And he said, after all I went through on this earth, he said, why should I have to see something like this? He said, why should I have to see something like this?
Calvin Parker, I was questioning him, and at one time he wanted to climb the wall. That's how nervous and how shook up he was.
They had me one on this arm like this, and on the other one, you know, they had my other arm like that. And I just seemed to lift up to the same height they were off the ground, and we just moved into the craft.
Now inside, how did they lay you out? Do you remember how it happened?
Yes. I didn't see any tables or chairs or anything in there. I'm not saying it wasn't in there because the light was almost blinding, but I didn't see any. And when they carried me inside, they seemed to just lean me back, you know. And this eye, well, I keep referring to it as an eye, and it moved up in front of me about this close. And it started right at my eyes, looking me right in the eye. And it hesitated there for a few seconds, and it just started moving over my entire body. When they brought me from the craft along this area here, and they didn't drop me, you know, they just released me back to the ground. And I fell. I don't know why my legs were weak. I don't know why it was the fright or what it was, but I fell onto the ground. And that's when I seen Calvin. He's standing right over here in this area, and he was standing facing the river with his arms outstretched like that, just like he was staring at something.
Tell me about the lie detector test.
Well, so that was run by Pilkington. Was it Pilkington?
Pennington.
Pennington.
That they run this type of test about 6 times a day. And when they were asked to come over here to talk to these people, they had in their mind that it was just a big joke. And if I understand it correctly, they ran one test on Mr. Hickson. The machine showed that he was telling the truth. Then they run another one. And then the examiner, he began to wonder himself. So he ran the third test, and he believed just what Mr. Hickson had told him.
Mr. Booth, tell me what happened that night in October.
Well, I got up and had turned off the TV and come to the front door, which you can see right behind me. Just as usual, checking to see if it was locked. So I looked out the window at the top, and naturally I saw this object above the street light out there. So naturally it caught my eye where the lights was on. I couldn't hear any racket or anything. So I opened the door after a few seconds to step out to see if I could really tell what it was. It just took off.
Can you describe it?
Well, it was round, had lights all the way around it, turning in a counter-clockwise motion. It had a dome on top with a bright light shining out through the top of it. To tell the actual figure of it or anything, you couldn't tell. You could just see the lights and the one on top.
When it happened to Charlie, the creatures, whatever they were, didn't communicate with him. Now, it's enough to say you saw a UFO to give you trouble these days in some towns. To be taken aboard is just a suspect idea. But somehow, if the creatures don't give you a message, you're just a touch less incredible. And Charlie says what he said and what we wrote about in the book. It was like they had a job to do, and they came and they did it.
I think there has to be a reason why that Calvin and me was picked.
Maybe because you could take it.
Well, it might be. I don't know. I think that they know more of what's going on down here on this earth than we think. And I don't know, they might have been, you might say, looking for somebody that could, you might say, hold up under the strain and convince people that there is another world and there's some kind of life on that world up there.
They were the ones that saw the Pascagoula UFO.
Down there, you know, Jesus Christ. You hear about something like that, but you can't believe it. Yeah, you hear that, I know, but there ain't something the United States can have up there. No, that wouldn't done no not what we see, though. Not what we see. It's something, and the Air Force and all know it's up there, too, see. And this ain't gonna be the only time this gonna happen again. You see, I like had a heart attack and I ain't see. I know. I come one down and it scared me to death too, so. I'm just laying there crying right now. I can't tell you. I know, but it's something that you can't get over in a lifetime, see. Jesus Christ. I'm so damn bad about it, about his legs. That's what I thought I had been through enough of hell on this earth, and now I have to go through something like that, see. But they could have, you know, I guess they could have harmed us, son. They could have done anything to us if they didn't hurt me. Maybe why they just picked us? I don't know. I'm telling you, man, I couldn't take much more of that. I know I'm going to bed and get some nerve pills or something, see the doctor or something. I can't stand it. I'm about to go all the paces. I'll take you by when they get through us, we'll go by the phone. I'll get you something, settle you down with so you get some damn sleep. I can sleep that like it is. I'm just damn near crazy. But yeah, when they brought you out of that damn thing, and when they brought me out, well, I like to know where the hell you know. God damn, I like to know where the hell got you straightened out, man. I didn't know it, though. I remember by heart they just froze out just like that. I couldn't move, just like I slept on a damn rattlesnake. They didn't do me that way, though. I passed out. I passed out. That's the first time I ever passed out in my life. You check the new medical records. And I've never seen nothing like that before in my life. You can't make people believe that, though. I don't know, sit here and believe it not, because I know. They better wake up and start believing. Damn right. They better wake up and start believing. Damn right. Listen, I seen it. I can't figure out the damn door. You see how that door will come around on that side of each other? Yeah, I don't know how to open something. I don't know. I didn't see no door swing. I don't know how to open it. I don't know how to shit on it. All right, just see something. And look around, them damn blue lights and them son bitches, just like that, they come out. Yeah, no, you can't believe it. You can't make people believe it. I paralyzed right there. I couldn't believe it. They won't believe it one of these days. They won't believe it one of these days. Might be too late. I knew all along there was people from outer world up there. I knew all along.
What would you say to them at this point when they took you in there? What would you say? What would you say to them at this point when they took you in there? What would you say? We made a full of home. But then the closer they get, I'm realizing what a serious situation that we're in. And there's something like I've never seen before in my life. It's 1, 2, 3 of them coming out the door. There's one more standing in the door. What are they shaped like?
A football player.
Football player?
Yeah.
broad shoulders. Very broad shoulders. Long, long arms. But they don't have a face. There's still no face on the first one. The second he touched, it was a burning all the way through me. It felt like hot coals on me. Where did this happen? And I can't breathe. Okay. Just an easy deep breath. You're okay, Calvin. Easy deep breath. Put my hand on your shoulder. As soon as you feel my hand on your shoulder, you can breathe. Feel my hand on your shoulder, you can breathe now. Feel the breathe. Now the breath is coming back. Breath is coming back. Feel my hand on your shoulder. Breath is coming back. Okay, feels much better. That was bad, but it's because now it's easing off, easing off, easing off. You can breathe now. That was tough, but it's in the past now. You got past that. You're okay. She's coming back in the room. The door opened, and I can move. She walked in, and I grabbed her. I got her in her skinny ass little neck, and I'm choking her right now. And I'm beating her head against this mirror. And there's some kind of black stuff coming out.
Sitting there fishing, and I heard a noise and turned around and looked and seen some blue lights, some hazy blue lights. And that's when, you know, the craft landed behind us. We still wasn't for sure what it was. But it landed, and we turned around, and the front of it opened up. And when it did, it was just like we were paralyzed there. He couldn't move, and I couldn't move. But there's three robot-looking creatures that floated out. They didn't walk. They just kind of glided out of the craft and come over, and two got a hold of me, and one got a hold of Charlie, and they took us inside. They did an examination. So when they examined us, we was probably in there, I'm going to say 45 minutes. I'm not real sure. I didn't have a watch or nothing at the time. They put us back out at the same place we were, facing the water, and I was froze, you know, in one spot. And originally, I didn't want to talk about it no more, so Charlie just said, you know, play like you passed out in there and you won't have to say nothing too much. So that's what I did. I kind of went along with that. When it took off, it didn't make hardly any noise at all. You just heard like a zipping noise. It was zip, and that was it, and it was gone. And it shattered the windows in my car. I had a brand new 1973 Horner Rambler.
Took them down there and put them in a room with a voice-activated mic, and it's hidden in the desk to see what they'd say. Well, me and the other investigator got up and left to let them talk to see if they were going to say, well, we got them fooled and all. They didn't. They were really concerned. The boy kept telling Charles that don't talk to them, and people's going to come back and get us.
I did go on a few talk shows at the beginning of this, thinking that it would settle down after that. There's people, even up till today, that's still trying to track me down.